Two brothers. One night. Two shotguns. What really happened inside that Beverly Hills mansion in 1989? Two different truths were told in the courtroom. One was a story of cold-blooded murder. The other was a survival story nobody wanted to hear. Now, 35 years later, we're examining the details both sides missed. PM at 722 Elm Drive in Beverly Hills. Jose and Kitty Menendez were watching television, in their living room, eating ice cream. It was a normal Sunday evening, an ordinary family moment. But nothing in that mansion was what it seemed. At 10:05 p.m., gunshots shattered the silence. Neighbors heard it. But when you hear gunshots in Beverly Hills, you can't tell if it's a car backfiring or an actual gun. Most people ignored it. At 11:47 p.m., a 911 call came in. The caller was sobbing, screaming, "Someone killed my parents! Someone killed my parents!" The caller was Lyle Menendez. He was 21 years old. His brother Erik, 18, stood beside him. Both were in shock, or so it appeared. When Beverly Hills police arrived at Elm Drive, the scene they found was horrific. Jose Menendez, 45, was sitting in his chair. Multiple gunshot wounds covered his body. Kitty Menendez, 47, was collapsed on the floor. She appeared to have been killed while trying to protect herself. Crime scene detectives came to an immediate conclusion. This was a mob hit. Jose Menendez was a wealthy entertainment industry executive. He was CEO of live entertainment. Men like that had enemies. But something was wrong. The shell casings, 12-gauge shotgun shells. A professional hitman wouldn't use a shotgun. Too loud, too crude, too personal. And more importantly, Kitty Menendez's wounds. She hadn't just been killed. The final shot to her head was a sign of rage, a sign of hatred. This wasn't a mob hit. This was personal. The story Lyle and Erik Menendez told police was simple. They had gone to the movies that night. They watched Batman. When they came home, they found their parents dead. They panicked. They called 911. Police believed them, or appeared to believe them. Detective Les Zoller was leading the case. He had years of experience, and something was bothering him. Two young men, he thought. When they find their parents murdered like this, they react differently. Lyle and Erik, they were strangely controlled. But there was no evidence, just a feeling. The next day, Jose and Kitty Menendez's funeral was held. Lyle and Erik were there. Both shed tears. They cried. They hugged. Everyone felt sympathy for them. Nobody suspected anything. And he left it all to his two sons. Lyle and Erik became millionaires overnight. But they didn't grieve normally. Within days, Lyle bought a Porsche 911, $64,000. Cash. Then a Rolex watch, $15,000. Erik hired a tennis coach. He paid $50,000 for private training. Within 2 months, they spent $700,000. Everyone in Beverly Hills noticed. Neighbors, family friends, business associates. These kids, it's like they're not grieving at all, people began to whisper. Detective Zoller noticed too. There are two things, he told his colleagues. Either these kids are spending as a coping mechanism, or... He didn't finish the sentence, but everyone understood what he meant. But the truly shocking part hadn't emerged yet. 6 months later, a phone call would change everything. March 1990, Los Angeles. A woman named Judalon Smith called the police. Her voice was trembling. "I have information about the Menendez murders. My psychologist knows something. There are recordings. There's a confession." Police listened carefully. Dr. Jerome Oziel. He was a well-known psychologist in Beverly Hills. Erik Menendez had started seeing him shortly after the murders. And in therapy, He had said something that broke doctor-patient confidentiality. Erik had confessed to the murders. It was on tape. Police obtained a search warrant. They raided Dr. Oziel's office. They opened the safe. And on that tape, they found Erik Menendez's voice, crying, trembling, broken. We did it. Lyle and I. We killed our dad. Then our mom. We had to kill them. They were going to kill us. March 11th, 1990. Lyle Menendez was at a cafe in Beverly Hills. He was on the phone. He was laughing. Officers approached him. Lyle Menendez, you are under arrest for the murder of your parents. Lyle's face remained expressionless for a moment. Then he said one word. Okay. Erik was in Israel. He was participating in a tennis tournament. When he got the news, he panicked. But he didn't run. He returned to Los Angeles. He turned himself in. When the two brothers were placed in cells, they were separated from each other for the first time in years. And there was no going back now. 1993, Los Angeles Superior Courthouse. America's most watched trial began. Television broadcast it every day. CNN, Court, TV, all the networks. Before the O.J. Simpson trial, there was this. The Menendez brothers trial. Two brothers, two lawyers, two different stories. The prosecution's case was simple. Lyle and Erik Menendez killed their parents for money. They planned it in cold blood. They purchased the murder weapons in advance. Two calculated, ruthless, money-hungry young men. The defense told a completely different story. Leslie Abramson. She was Erik's attorney. Short, sharp-eyed, a famous defense lawyer. And she dropped a bomb in the courtroom. Jose Menendez sexually abused his sons for years. Kitty Menendez knew, and she did nothing. Lyle and Erik didn't murder their parents that night. They defended themselves. Silence. The courtroom froze. Prosecutor Pamela Bozanich jumped to her feet. Objection. This is a completely baseless claim. Judge. Defense. Can you prove this? Leslie Abramson. Yes, Your Honor. Lyle and Erik Menendez will speak for the first time now. This is where everything changed. When Erik Menendez took the witness stand, what he said divided all of America in two. Erik Menendez sat on the witness stand. He was 23 years old. His hair was short. He wore a prison uniform. His hands were shaking. Leslie Abramson asked, Erik, can you tell us what your father did to you? Erik's eyes filled with tears. His voice broke. It started when I was 6 years old. He would touch me. He would tell me, this is our secret. My mom knew, but she didn't do anything. Silence filled the courtroom. Jury members froze. Some were crying. Erik continued. He did the same thing to Lyle, for years. We couldn't talk about it. We couldn't tell anyone. Because Dad would tell us, if you say this, I will kill you. Lyle Menendez also took the witness stand. He told the same story, the same details, the same fear. That night, Lyle said, Dad told Erik he was going to kill him, because Erik had started standing up to him. We were scared. Our lives were in danger. Either they were going to kill us, or we were going to kill them. But the prosecution didn't believe this story. Pamela Bozanich stood up, cold, harsh, determined. Erik, if these abuse allegations are true, why didn't you go to the police? Erik, Dad was too powerful. Nobody would believe him. Nobody would believe me. Bozanich, then why did you spend $700,000 after the murders? Is that victim behavior? Erik couldn't answer. Bozanich, you killed your parents for money. Then you invented an abuse story to cover up this terrible crime. That's the truth. 1994. The first jury couldn't reach a verdict. Deadlock. Some jury members believed Lyle and Erik, some didn't. A retrial was ordered. 1995. The second trial began. This time it was different. The media was more aggressive. The O.J. Simpson trial had just ended. America was discussing whether wealthy defendants could escape justice. And this time, the jury reached a verdict. April 2nd, 1996. Judge. Jury. Have you reached your verdict? Jury foreman. Yes, Your Honor. Lyle Menendez and Erik Menendez on the charge of first-degree murder. Guilty. Screams erupted in the courtroom. Lyle and Erik froze. They didn't move. They just looked at each other. During the sentencing phase, the prosecution requested the death penalty. But the jury didn't give the death penalty. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. Lyle Menendez and Erik Menendez would spend the rest of their lives in prison. But the story didn't end there. 30 years later, new evidence emerged. 2023, 34 years later. Lyle is 55 years old. Erik is 52. Both are in different prisons. But a group of lawyers prepared a new petition, habeas corpus. There was new evidence. Roy Rosselló. He was a former member of the group Menudo, a famous Latin pop group in the 1980s. And Roy gave an interview for a documentary. Jose Menendez raped me when I was 13 years old. He was working at RCA Records. He called me to his room. And he did things to me that shouldn't be done to children. This statement had a bombshell effect, because that was Lyle and Erik's defense in 1993. Our father was an abuser. The jury hadn't believed it, but now there was a witness, a victim, an independent statement. Also, a letter was found. A letter Erik wrote to his cousin in 1988, 8 months before the murders. I'm starting to get scared. Dad is still doing those things to me. I can't stop it. I can't take it. Sometimes I think about dying. This letter hadn't been presented at the 1993 trial. The lawyers didn't know about it. But now it was out there. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office began a new review. 2024, Kim Kardashian, Rosanna Arquette, and dozens of celebrities started a campaign for Lyle and Erik. They were children. They experienced trauma. Today's justice system would look at them differently. They should be released. But the victim's family, Jose and Kitty's relatives, objected. Jose and Kitty were murdered. What about their justice? Lyle and Erik planned, killed, lied. They should serve their sentences. Now, 35 years later, America is asking the same question again. Were Lyle and Erik Menendez victims, or were they killers? To understand this story, we need to know two more people. Two people who can no longer defend themselves. Jose Menendez, born in Cuba in 1944. He fled Fidel Castro's revolution. He came to America at age 16. He didn't speak English. He had $20 in his pocket. And he lived the American dream. He graduated from Southern Illinois University. He became an executive at Hertz. Then he moved to RCA Records. Then he became CEO of Live Entertainment. Jose Menendez was a man who rose from nothing to the top. Tough, authoritarian, success-driven. He demanded perfection from his sons. But his friend said this. Jose loved his family. He would do anything for them. He worked so that Lyle and Erik could go to the best schools. He gave them the best opportunities. Kitty Menendez, born in 1941, a beautiful, intelligent girl from Illinois. She met Jose in college. They fell in love. They got married. Kitty was a classic 1960s housewife. She took care of her children. She ran her home. She supported Jose's career. But her friend said she was unhappy. She was under Jose's pressure. She was drinking. She was depressed. One witness said, Kitty once told Lyle, "Your father destroyed me, but I won't let him destroy you." What did that mean? What did Kitty know? When Jose and Kitty Menendez were killed that night, there were only two people who really knew what happened: Lyle and Erik. And the story they told was one that half the jury believed and half didn't. Dr. William Vicari. He was the defense's expert witness, a trauma psychologist. Lyle and Erik were suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, he said in court. A child who experiences years of abuse goes into fight-or-flight mode. That night, they thought they couldn't escape. So they fought. But the prosecution's expert witness, Dr. Park Dietz, disagreed. This isn't PTSD. This is antisocial personality disorder. Lyle and Erik show no empathy. They're not remorseful. They're just afraid of getting caught. Two experts, two diagnoses, two truths. Which one would the jury believe? And now, perhaps the most important question. If Lyle and Erik were tried today, would the outcome be different? In the 1990s, sexual abuse of male children was almost never discussed. Society didn't believe it. There was a perception that boys can't be victims. But today, after the Me Too movement, the world has changed. Trauma is understood. Victim behavior is understood. The question, "Why didn't you say something immediately?" is no longer seen as an accusation. Some legal experts say this: if Lyle and Erik were tried in 2024, they would probably be convicted of manslaughter instead of first-degree murder. 15 years in prison. They might be out by now. But some disagree. Murder is murder. Trauma is not an excuse. Jose and Kitty Menendez weren't killed in their sleep. But they were killed while defenseless. This isn't justice. Lyle Menendez is at Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility, near San Diego. Erik Menendez is at the same prison. They were reunited in 2018. For the first time in 22 years, they're at the same facility. Both got married. They found spouses in prison. Both paint. They participate in educational programs. Lyle's wife, Rebecca Sneed. Lyle is a different person now. He's matured. He's remorseful. He's at peace. Erik's wife, Tommy Menendez. Erik is kind, thoughtful. He's a good husband. He's a good person. But critics say this: they got married in prison. They had romantic visits. Jose and Kitty Menendez are in the ground. Is this justice? Jose and Kitty Menendez are still in the ground. And America is still asking, were they victims or were they killers? Maybe the answer is both. Maybe a person can be both victim and perpetrator. Maybe trauma doesn't justify crime, but it explains it. Maybe the justice system can't always provide black and white answers. What Lyle Menendez said in a 2023 interview perhaps sums it all up. I regret killing my father. But the fear we experienced that night was real. Both can be true. I can be both a killer and a survivor. There's no clear hero in this story. No clear villain. Just tragedy. And perhaps true justice lies in seeing the pain of all sides. Jose and Kitty Menendez were killed in 1989. Was justice served for them? Or should justice be served for their sons? Maybe both deserve it. Maybe neither do. Maybe the answer to that question lies in your own conscience.